While I was enjoying my granddaughter's birthday party, my business partner called with urgency in his voice. "Are you at the warehouse?" "No," I replied. "Then who just drove in with your truck and access code?" he asked quietly. When I tried to leave the party to check, my daughter insisted I stay and seemed oddly nervous. You won't believe what she was hiding. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. The conference room door flew open with such force that it rattled the framed certificates on the wall. My daughter Rebecca stood in the doorway, her designer blazer wrinkled and her usually perfect hair falling loose from its clip. Her eyes were red-rimmed and she clutched her phone so tightly her knuckles had gone white. "Dad, I need to talk." "To you," her voice cracked on the last word. "Now, it's urgent." I set down the quarterly reports I'd been reviewing and gestured to the chair across from my desk. At 62, I'd built Morrison Supply Company from nothing into a thriving logistics business. 35 years of early mornings and late nights, of building relationships and keeping promises. Rebecca had joined the company 5 years ago as operations manager, and I'd been proud to see her work ethic, her attention to detail. Now, watching her collapse into the leather chair, I felt a familiar knot of worry form in my stomach. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" She took a shaky breath. "I made some investments, personal investments. They didn't work out the way I thought they would." I leaned back in my chair, studying her face. "What kind of investments?" "Cryptocurrency, NFTs, some tech startups." She wouldn't meet my eyes. "I thought I was being smart, diversifying, getting in early on the next big thing. Everyone said these opportunities were guaranteed returns." The word guaranteed made my jaw tighten. In business, nothing is guaranteed except hard work and integrity. "How much are we talking about?" $45,000. The words came out in a rush. "I need $45,000 by Monday, or I'll lose everything I put in. There's a chance to recover it all, but only if I can cover the margin call." $45,000. I thought about the salary I paid her, generous, but not excessive. I thought about her apartment in the expensive part of town, the new car she'd bought last year, the designer clothes, and weekend trips she posted on social media. "Rebecca, where did you get $45,000 to invest in the first place?" Her silence told me everything I needed to know. "The company credit card." My voice came out flat, emotionless, though inside I felt something crack. "You used company funds for personal investments. I was going to pay it back." She leaned forward, desperation written across her face. "Dad, please, you have to understand. I thought I'd triple the money in 3 months and put it all back before anyone noticed. But the market crashed, and now if I don't cover this call, I'll lose everything, and then the auditors will find out, and you'll face embezzlement charges." I finished her sentence, feeling decades older than I had 10 minutes ago. "Rebecca, what were you thinking?" "I was thinking about my future." Her voice rose, filling the office. "Do you know what it's like, Dad? Living in your shadow. Everyone always comparing me to you, to your perfect track record, your impeccable reputation. I wanted to prove I could be successful too, on my own terms, not just as James Morrison's daughter." I stood and walked to the window overlooking the warehouse floor below. Workers moved between shelves with practiced efficiency. Forklifts hummed, inventory flowed, all of it built on trust and consistent execution. So you stole from the company to chase get-rich-quick schemes. "I borrowed it. There's a difference." I turned to face her. "No, Rebecca, there isn't. Not in the eyes of the law and not in mine." Her face flushed red, then pale. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying no. I won't give you $45,000 to throw after money you've already lost, and I won't cover up what you've done." She stood so quickly the chair rolled backward. "You're my father. How can you just abandon me when I need help?" "I'm helping you by not enabling this. You're 33 years old. You made a choice, and now you face the consequences. Consequences? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Easy for you to say, Dad. You've never failed at anything in your life. You don't know what it's like to make a mistake and have everyone judge you for it. I know what it's like to work for everything I have, to earn trust through years of honest dealing, to face setbacks and push through them without compromising my integrity. She stared at me for a long moment, and I watched something shift in her expression. The desperation faded, replaced by something harder, colder. You'll regret this. Her voice was quiet, controlled. You think you're teaching me some kind of lesson, but all you're doing is showing me that family means nothing when it comes to protecting your precious reputation. Rebecca, but she was already moving toward the door. I'll figure it out myself. I always do. The door closed behind her with a soft click that somehow felt louder than if she'd slammed it. I spent the rest of that Friday afternoon trying to focus on work, but Rebecca's visit had shaken me more than I wanted to admit. By the time I locked up the office and drove home, darkness had settled over the industrial park like a blanket. My business partner Carl Henderson called as I was pulling into my driveway. We'd been friends for 20 years, partners for 15. He handled the financial side while I managed operations. James, we need to talk about the Riverside account. I killed the engine and sat in the darkness of my garage. What about it? There are some discrepancies in the billing records. Nothing major, but I wanted to give you a heads up before the Monday meeting. My stomach dropped. What kind of discrepancies? Inventory shipped but not invoiced. Invoices processed but no shipping records. It's scattered across the last 4 months. I'm sure there's an explanation, but you wanted to mention it. I closed my eyes. Thanks, Carl. I'll look into it. After he hung up, I sat in my car, thinking about Rebecca's panicked visit, her confession about the company credit card. Had she been covering her tracks by manipulating records? Had she stolen more than just $45,000? The weekend passed slowly. I tried to distract myself with yard work and home repairs, but every time my phone rang, I tensed, expecting Rebecca to call with another crisis or demand. She didn't. Sunday evening, my phone buzzed with a text message from her. Dad, I'm sorry. About Friday, I was stressed and said things I didn't mean. Can we talk? I'm having some people over Tuesday night for dinner. Please come. 7 p.m., 2847 Riverside Drive. It would mean a lot to me. I stared at the message for a long time. The address was Rebecca's new apartment, the expensive one I'd helped her move into last spring. Despite everything, she was still my daughter. Maybe she'd realized the gravity of her situation. Maybe she wanted to apologize properly, to work together on fixing the mess she'd made. I texted back, I'll be there. Monday morning brought the meeting with Carl and our accountant, Patricia Mills. We sat in the conference room, Patricia's laptop, displaying spreadsheets that told a damning story. The pattern started about 6 months ago, Patricia explained, her finger tracing lines on the screen. Small amounts at first. Inventory adjustments here, billing corrections there, nothing that would raise flags individually. But when you look at it all together... How much? I asked, though I already knew the answer would be bad. Approximately $68,000 over 6 months. Carl's face was grave. James, I know Rebecca handles most of the inventory management. Is there any chance she might know something about this? I thought about lying, about protecting my daughter's reputation a little longer, but I'd built this company on honesty, and I wouldn't compromise that now, even for family. She came to see me Friday, told me she'd used company funds for personal investments and needed $45,000 to cover losses. Patricia and Carl exchanged glances. Did you give her the money? Patricia asked gently. No. Carl leaned forward. James, I hate to say this, but we need to secure the accounting systems, change passwords, limit access. If Rebecca realizes we're onto her, she already knows I won't help her cover it up. She might do something desperate. Then we need to act fast. Patricia was already typing. I'll start documentation for the authorities. Carl, you handle the system security. James, you should probably... My phone rang. The caller ID showed Rebecca's number. I let it ring 3 times before answering, stepping out of the conference room for privacy. Hi, sweetheart. Dad! Rebecca's voice was bright, cheerful, completely different from Friday's desperation. I just wanted to confirm you're still coming. Tomorrow night. I'm so excited for you to meet some of my friends. The artificial enthusiasm made my skin crawl. I'll be there. Wonderful. Oh, and Dad, I've been thinking a lot about our conversation. You were right about everything. I need to take responsibility for my choices. That's good to hear, Rebecca. I'm working on a plan to make things right, but we can talk about it tomorrow. I don't want to ruin the surprise. After she hung up, I stood in the hallway, unease settling over me like fog. Something about her tone felt wrong, rehearsed, as if she were reading from a script. I returned to the conference room. She just called about dinner tomorrow night. Sounded off, Carl frowned. Off how? Too cheerful, too eager to have me over. After the way she left on Friday, I expected anger or silence, not dinner invitations. Patricia saved her spreadsheet and closed her laptop. Maybe she's genuinely trying to apologize. Maybe. But I didn't believe it. That afternoon, I drove past Rebecca's apartment building. Her car sat in its assigned spot, and lights glowed in her third-floor windows. Everything looked normal. So why did I feel like something was building toward a crisis? Tuesday arrived with unseasonably warm weather for October. I spent the morning at the warehouse, double-checking inventory records and shipping manifests. The discrepancies Patricia had found were real, and they all pointed back to Rebecca's access codes and authorization signatures. My daughter had been stealing from me for months. Carl found me in the warehouse office around 2 in the afternoon. Security finished the audit. Rebecca accessed the system 43 times in the last 6 months, outside of normal business hours. Most of those instances correlate with the financial discrepancies. She was covering her tracks, or creating them. Carl sat down heavily. James, I'm sorry. I know this is hard. She invited me to dinner tonight. 7 o'clock. Carl's expression shifted to concern. Are you sure that's wise? If she knows we're investigating, she doesn't. At least I don't think she does. What are you going to do? I looked at the inventory sheets spread across my desk, each one representing hours of work, relationships built on trust, a reputation earned through decades of integrity. I'm going to have dinner with my daughter, and then I'm going to do what's right. At 6:30 I left the office and drove toward Rebecca's address. The apartment building was modern, all glass and steel, with underground parking and a doorman. Expensive. Too expensive for someone earning what I paid her. I should have seen the signs earlier. The elevator took me to the 3rd floor, and I walked down the carpeted hallway to Unit 312. Before I could knock, the door swung open. Rebecca stood there in a casual dress, her hair styled, makeup perfect. Behind her, I could see her apartment, clean, organized, with soft music playing and the scent of cooking food. Dad? Perfect timing. Come in, come in. The apartment was more spacious than I remembered, decorated with expensive furniture and artwork that must have cost thousands. A dining table was set for 2 with china I didn't recognize, and wine glasses that caught the light from overhead. Fixtures, this is lovely, I said, meaning it. You've done well with the place. Thanks. I wanted tonight to be special. She took my jacket and hung it in the closet. Can I get you something to drink? Wine, scotch? Just water, thanks. While she was in the kitchen, I examined the living room more closely. New television, expensive sound system, designer throw, pillows on a leather couch. more evidence of spending beyond her means. Rebecca returned with 2 glasses of water and gestured toward the couch. "Dinner will be ready in about 20 minutes. I made your favorite, pot roast with roasted vegetables." We sat, and an awkward silence fell between us. Finally, I said, "You mentioned wanting to talk about Friday." "I do." She set her glass down, carefully. "Dad, I owe you an apology. The way I spoke to you, the accusations I made, I was stressed and scared. And I took it out on you. That wasn't fair. I appreciate that. I've been doing a lot of thinking this weekend about my choices, my priorities. You were right when you said I needed to take responsibility." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "So I'm working on a plan." "What kind of plan?" "Well, that's part of what I wanted to discuss tonight. But first, let's eat. I didn't slave over a hot stove all afternoon to let the food get cold." Dinner was excellent, I had to admit. The pot roast was tender, the vegetables perfectly seasoned. Rebecca kept the conversation light, asking about my week, sharing funny stories about her gym routine and a new coffee shop she'd discovered. But underneath it all, I sensed something else. The way her eyes kept flicking to her phone on the side table. The way she steered the conversation away whenever I asked about her plans. The forced brightness in her laugh. We were finishing dessert, chocolate cake that she claimed to have made herself, when my phone rang. Carl's name appeared on the screen. "Sorry, I should take this." I stood and moved toward the window overlooking the parking lot. "Carl, what's up?" "James, where are you right now?" His voice carried an edge of urgency that made my pulse quicken. "At Rebecca's place." "Why?" "I'm at the warehouse. James, someone's here. I saw movement inside through the office windows, and the security system shows your access code was used 15 minutes ago." My access code. I pulled out my wallet and checked. My security card was still there. "Carl, I'm 20 minutes away. Did you call the police?" "I wanted to check with you first in case." "Call them now and get somewhere safe." I hung up and turned to find Rebecca standing right behind me, close enough that I nearly bumped into her. "Is everything okay?" she asked, her face a mask of concern. That was Carl. "Someone's at the warehouse using my access code." Her eyes widened. "What?" "That's terrible." "You should go check on it. The police are handling it." "But Dad, what if it's serious? What if someone's stealing inventory or damaging equipment? You should really..." "Rebecca." I kept my voice calm, but something in her desperation triggered all my suspicions. "Why are you so insistent I leave right now?" "I'm not insistent, I just think my access card is in my wallet. It's been with me all evening. So whoever's at the warehouse has a duplicate." I watched her face carefully. "Who else would have access to duplicate my security credentials?" She took a step back. "Dad, I don't know what you're implying, but how much have you stolen, Rebecca?" "We know about the 68,000. Is there more?" The color drained from her face, then flooded back in an angry rush. "You've been investigating me." Patricia found discrepancies in the accounts, inventory adjustments, billing irregularities, all tied to your access codes and authorizations. "I can explain. Can you? Can you explain why someone with a duplicate of my security card is at the warehouse right now, while you've conveniently arranged to have me here 20 minutes away?" She crossed her arms, and I saw that cold hardness return to her expression. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Those people I invested with, they're not just going to let me walk away from my debts. They want their money, and they don't care how they get it. So you arranged for them to rob the warehouse while you kept me occupied with a fake reconciliation dinner. It's not fake. I do want to fix things between us. But I also need to solve my immediate problems. And since you refuse to help me, I refuse to enable your criminal behavior. There's a difference." She laughed, sharp and bitter. "Criminal behavior, that's rich, coming from you. Do you know how many times you've bent rules for your business partners? How many times you've looked the other way when someone needed a favor. I've never stolen, never betrayed someone's trust for personal gain. No, you just built an empire. While I grew up with a father who was always at work, always choosing the company over his family. Do you even remember my college graduation? My mother's birthday last year? The accusations stung because they held kernels of truth. I had missed things, I had prioritized work. But that didn't justify what she'd done. None of that excuses theft. Rebecca, I'm not asking for excuses, I'm asking for understanding. Those people at the warehouse, they're just taking inventory. High-value items that won't be missed for weeks. By then, I'll have sold them, paid off my debts, and started fresh. Started fresh with a criminal record. Her phone buzzed on the side table. She grabbed it, read the message, and her face went pale. What is it? I asked. They're saying the police showed up. They can't get to the storage units. Good. She stared at me. Good? Dad, do you understand what will happen if I can't pay these people? They're not patient, they're not forgiving. Then maybe you should have thought about that before getting involved with them. I moved toward the closet to get my jacket, but Rebecca stepped into my path. You can't leave. Rebecca, move. Not until you listen to me. Dad, please, I need you to call off the police. Tell them it was a false alarm. Give my people time to finish the job. Your people are criminals. And so are you for arranging this. I'm your daughter, which is why this hurts so much. I gently but firmly moved her aside and pulled my jacket from the closet. I'm going to the warehouse. The police will want statements from both Carl and me. She grabbed my arm. If you do this, if you let them arrest those guys, they'll tell the police everything. About me, about the plan. I'll go to prison. You'll face consequences for your choices. That's not the same thing. Tears streamed down her face now, but I couldn't tell if they were genuine or manipulative. Please, I'm begging you, just give me one more chance. I gave you a chance on Friday when I refused to enable your gambling with company funds. You responded by arranging to rob me. There are no more chances, Rebecca. I walked to the door, and she didn't try to stop me again. But as I reached for the handle, she spoke one more time. You're going to regret this. When I'm sitting in a cell because my own father chose his business over his daughter, you're going to realize what you've lost. I turned back to look at her. This woman I'd raised, this stranger I barely recognized. I've already lost you, sweetheart. That happened the moment you chose crime over character. The drive to the warehouse took exactly 18 minutes. Police cars filled the parking lot, their lights painting the building in alternating red and blue. I parked and hurried toward the main entrance, where Carl stood talking to two officers. James! Carl's relief was visible. Thank God you're okay. What happened? One of the officers, a young woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, stepped forward. I'm Officer Martinez. Are you James Morrison, owner of this facility? I am. We apprehended 3 individuals attempting to access your high-value storage units. They had what appears to be a duplicate of your security card. She held up a plastic evidence bag containing a card identical to mine. Do you know how they might have obtained this? Carl and I exchanged glances. I took a breath. My daughter Rebecca Morrison is the operations manager. She has access to security credential duplication for legitimate business purposes. Officer Martinez's expression remained neutral. Would she have any reason to provide unauthorized individuals with access to this facility? Yes, she's been embezzling from the company and needed to pay off debts. I believe she arranged this break-in to steal inventory she could sell. Saying it out loud made it real in a way it hadn't been before. My daughter was a thief. My daughter had betrayed me. We'll need a full statement from you, Officer Martinez said. Also, the individuals we arrested are being quite talkative. One of them has already mentioned being hired by someone named Rebecca to collect merchandise. They're willing to testify against her. If it means reduced charges, yes. We see this often. The hired help turns on the organizer to save themselves. Carl put a hand on my shoulder. I'm sorry, James. I know this isn't how you wanted this to end. It's not ending how she wanted it either. We spent the next 2 hours at the warehouse, giving statements and reviewing security footage. The cameras had captured everything. 3 men using the duplicate security card, moving through the facility toward the climate-controlled units where we stored high-value electronics and specialty equipment. They'd been in the process of loading the first boxes into a van when Carl had spotted them and called me, then the police. The timing had been perfect, or perfectly terrible, depending on your perspective. These units contain about $200,000 in inventory, I told Officer Martinez. If they'd succeeded, it would have severely damaged my ability to fulfill current contracts. Your daughter would have known that, she observed. Yes, she would have. By the time we finished at the warehouse, it was nearly midnight. Officer Martinez informed me that they'd be seeking a warrant for Rebecca's arrest in the morning. You should know, Mr. Morrison, that she'll likely face multiple felony charges. Embezzlement, conspiracy to commit theft, possibly wire fraud if she manipulated electronic records. This is serious, I understand. Carl drove me back to the apartment building to retrieve my car. We sat in his truck for a moment, neither of us quite ready to separate and face the rest of the night alone. What are you going to do? Carl asked. Go home. Try to sleep. Tomorrow, figure out how to tell Rebecca's mother that her daughter is going to be arrested. I mean about the company. Do you want me to handle the PR side of this? I hadn't even thought about the public relations nightmare this would create. Let's wait until after the arrest. No point getting ahead of it. James, I have to ask, if Rebecca had come to you 6 months ago, told you she was in financial trouble, asked for help before any of this started, would you have helped her? Of course, I would have helped her budget, consolidate debts, maybe even co-signed a loan. But she didn't ask for help, she just took. She's young, she made mistakes. She's 33. Old enough to know better? Carl nodded slowly. You're a better man than me. I don't know if I could turn in my own kid. It's not about being better. It's about being consistent. I've spent 35 years building a reputation on honesty and integrity. The moment I compromise that, even for family, I lose everything that makes it worthwhile. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Rebecca's face, first as a little girl, laughing while I pushed her on the swings, then as an adult, cold and calculating as she told me I'd regret not helping her. Wednesday morning brought the news I'd been dreading. Officer Martinez called at 8 a.m. Mr. Morrison, we've arrested Rebecca Morrison at her apartment. She's being processed now and will be arraigned this afternoon. I wanted you to know before it hit the news. Thank you. There's something else. When we searched her apartment, we found documentation of other thefts. It appears she's been selling company inventory through online marketplaces for almost a year. The total amount is likely closer to $150,000. I sat down heavily on my couch. $150,000. All while looking me in the eye and pretending everything was fine. We'll need you to come to the station to review the evidence and provide additional documentation from your accounting records. I'll be there within the hour. The next few days passed in a blur of legal proceedings, meetings with attorneys, and damage control at the company. Patricia worked overtime, documenting every fraudulent transaction, every forged authorization, every stolen item. Carl handled the customers, explaining that we'd discovered internal theft and were working with authorities to recover losses. Most were understanding, though a few began looking for alternative suppliers. Rebecca's arraignment was brief. She appeared in orange jail scrubs, her hair pulled back, no makeup. She looked young and scared, and for a moment, I almost wavered. Almost. Then the prosecutor read the charges, and I remembered what she'd done. Not just to me, but to Carl, to Patricia, to every employee who depended on Morrison Supply Company for their livelihood. Her attorney entered a not guilty plea, and bail was set at $50,000. She looked directly at me then, her eyes pleading. I stood and walked out of the courtroom. That evening my ex-wife Karen called. Rebecca's mother and I had divorced 15 years ago, but we'd maintained a civil relationship for our daughters. "Asake, James, what is happening?" Rebecca called me from jail saying you've abandoned her. I explained everything, from the initial confession to the warehouse break-in to the full scope of her theft. Karen listened in shocked silence. "How could she do this?" she finally asked. "I don't know, but I won't enable it. She's our daughter. Doesn't that mean anything?" "It means everything. That's why I can't compromise my principles, even for her. If I bail her out now, pay for expensive lawyers to get her off easy, what lesson does that teach? That crime is acceptable if you're related to the victim. So you'll let her sit in jail. I'll let her face the natural consequences of her choices. If she's truly sorry, truly wants to change, this might be the wake-up call she needs." Karen was quiet for a long moment. "When did you become so cold, James?" "I'm not cold. I'm consistent. And maybe if we'd been more consistent when she was younger, we wouldn't be here now." She hung up without saying goodbye. 2 weeks after Rebecca's arrest, Carl and I met with our insurance company and attorneys to discuss recovery options. The insurance would cover about 60% of the inventory losses, but we'd still take a significant financial hit. "The good news," our attorney said, "is that Rebecca's co-conspirators have all agreed to testify against her in exchange for reduced sentences. The prosecution has a strong case." "What's she looking at?" I asked. "With the evidence and testimony, probably 5 to 7 years in prison. Could be reduced to 3 with good behavior. 3 to 7 years. Rebecca would be almost 40 when she got out. Her entire career, her reputation, her future, all destroyed by greed and short-term thinking." Carl looked at me. "James, it's not too late to show some leniency. If you went to the prosecutor, asked for a reduced sentence, showed willingness to accept restitution, no. Think about what you're doing. That's your daughter. I think about it every day, every hour. But if I interfere now, I'm telling her, and everyone else, that there are 2 standards of justice, one for strangers and one for family. I won't do that." The trial was set for February, 3 months away. In the meantime, business slowly returned to normal. We hired a new operations manager, a retired military logistics expert named Sandra Williams, who ran everything with precision and integrity. Patricia implemented new security protocols, and Carl took over direct supervision of financial systems. The company survived, though we lost some customers and took a reputation hit. 3 days before Thanksgiving, I received a letter from Rebecca. It had been forwarded through her attorney, and the envelope had clearly been opened and inspected by jail officials. I almost didn't read it, almost threw it away unopened, but something made me slide my finger under the flap and pull out the single sheet of lined paper. "Dad, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know I destroyed your trust and hurt you in ways I can't take back. I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness or to make excuses. I'm writing because sitting in this cell has given me a lot of time to think about the choices I made, about the person I became, about how I convinced myself that stealing from you was somehow justified because I was owed something for growing up in your shadow. I was wrong about all of it. You didn't owe me anything except the love and support you always gave me. I wasn't entitled to success without work, and I certainly wasn't entitled to steal from the company you built with your own hands. The prosecutor offered me a plea deal, 5 years with possibility of parole after 3 if I make full restitution and maintain good behavior. My lawyer says I should take it. I wanted you to hear it from me first. I'm going to plead guilty. I'm going to accept responsibility for what I did, not because I'm hoping for leniency or because I think it will change your mind about me. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do. Because you taught me that actions have consequences, even if it took me 33 years and a jail cell to learn that lesson. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry for everything. Rebecca, I read the letter 3 times, looking for manipulation, for hidden meanings, for any sign that this was another performance designed to get what she wanted, but I couldn't find it. The letter sounded genuine, humble, maybe even the beginning of real change. I called her attorney that afternoon. Mr. Morrison, I'm glad you called. Rebecca mentioned she was writing to you. About the plea deal. Is it fair? It's better than she'd get at trial. The evidence is overwhelming. I want to speak at her sentencing hearing. There was a pause. Mr. Morrison, you understand that as the victim, you have that right. But anything you say will be part of the permanent record. I understand. The sentencing hearing took place on a cold morning in late January. The courtroom was mostly empty, except for lawyers, court personnel, Karen and me. Rebecca sat at the defendant's table in a grey suit her mother had brought her. She looked thinner, older, like the last few months had aged her a decade. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Patricia Holloway, reviewed the case file before calling for statements. The prosecutor went first, laying out the extent of Rebecca's crimes, the premeditation, the betrayal of family trust. He recommended the full 5-year sentence. Rebecca's attorney spoke next, emphasizing her clean record prior to this, her genuine remorse, her cooperation with authorities. He asked for the minimum 3 years. Then Judge Holloway looked at me. Mr. Morrison, I understand you wish to address the court? I stood, my prepared notes in hand, though I'd already memorized what I wanted to say. Your Honor, Rebecca Morrison is my daughter. I raised her, taught her, tried to instill in her the values of honesty and hard work. What she did to me, to my company, to people who trusted her, it broke something I'm not sure can be fixed. But sitting in this courtroom today, I'm not thinking about the money she stole or the inventory she tried to take. I'm thinking about the woman who wrote me a letter taking full responsibility for her actions. The woman who chose to plead guilty rather than drag this out in hopes of getting off on a technicality. I don't forgive what she did. I'm not sure I ever will. But I recognize that she's taking the first steps toward becoming someone worthy of forgiveness. I'm not asking for leniency. I'm not asking you to go easy on her because she's my daughter. I'm asking you to give her the sentence that will best serve justice, while also giving her a chance to become the person she should have been all along. Rebecca will always be my daughter, but she needs to learn that love doesn't mean freedom from consequences. Sometimes the most loving thing a father can do is let his child face the full weight of their choices. I sat down. Rebecca was crying. Quietly, her shoulders shaking. Judge Holloway took a moment before speaking. Ms. Morrison, I've reviewed your case carefully. The crimes you committed were serious, premeditated, and involved significant breach of trust. However, I also note your genuine remorse, your cooperation with authorities, and your willingness to accept responsibility. I'm sentencing you to 4 years in state prison with possibility of parole after 2.5 years, conditional on full restitution and exemplary behavior. You'll also serve 3 years of supervised probation following your release. I hope you use this time to reflect on the person you want to be and the legacy you want to leave. Court is adjourned. As they led Rebecca away, she turned and looked at me one last time. I saw fear in her eyes, but also something else, maybe respect, maybe understanding, maybe the beginning of real change. 2 years later, I received a call from the parole board. Rebecca had been granted early release based on good behavior, completion of vocational training programs, and full participation in rehabilitation counseling. She's asked that you be notified, the officer said, but she's not requesting contact, just wanted you to know she's being released next Tuesday. Thank you for letting me know. I hung up and sat in my office, looking out at the warehouse floor. Business had recovered. We'd rebuilt our reputation through consistent execution and transparent communication with clients. Sandra Williams had proven to be an excellent operations manager, and we'd actually grown 10% over the past 2 years. But there had been a hole in my life that no business success could fill. Tuesday came and went. I didn't go to the prison for Rebecca's release, though part of me wanted to. Karen had mentioned she'd be there, that she'd arranged a halfway house placement and job. Interviews for Rebecca. 3 weeks later, my office phone rang. Sandra's voice came through the intercom. "James, there's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's personal." "Who is it?" A pause. "Your daughter." My hand froze over the phone. "Send her in." Rebecca entered my office looking completely different from the woman who'd been led away in handcuffs 2 years ago. Her hair was shorter, practical. She wore simple clothes, jeans and a plain blouse. No designer labels, no expensive accessories. She stood in the doorway uncertain. "Hi, Dad." "Rebecca, I know I should have called first. I needed to do this in person." She took a breath. "I'm not here to ask for anything. Not money, not a job, not forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I'm out, I'm working. I have a job at a non-profit helping women with financial literacy, and I'm in counseling." "That's good. I also wanted to say thank you." She saw my surprise and continued. "Thank you for not bailing me out, for not hiring expensive lawyers to get me off easy, for letting me face the consequences of what I did. You're thanking me for letting you go to prison. I'm thanking you for treating me like an adult, for respecting me enough to hold me accountable." She wiped at her eyes. "It took me a long time to understand that. At first I was so angry. I thought you were punishing me, abandoning me. But sitting in that cell, watching other women whose families kept enabling them, kept making excuses, kept bailing them out, only to have them reoffend again and again." She took a step closer. "I realized you loved me enough to let me fail, completely, to let me hit bottom, because that was the only way I was going to change for real." I felt something loosen in my chest, something that had been tight for 2 years. "I'm glad you're doing well." "I'm rebuilding. It's slow, most days are hard, but I'm doing it the right way this time." She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. "This is the first payment. I know I owe you $150,000 in restitution. The court set up a payment plan, but I wanted to give you this directly. It's $500. It's all I can afford right now, but I'll send the same amount every month until the debt is paid." I took the envelope, feeling its weight. "You didn't have to do this in person." "Yes, I did. I needed to look you in the eye and start making things right." We stood in silence for a moment. Then Rebecca said, "I should go. I don't want to take up more of your time. I just wanted you to know I'm trying." "Rebecca." I stopped her as she turned toward the door. "Would you like to have coffee sometime, just to talk? Not about business or restitution, just to talk." Her eyes filled with tears. "I'd like that." "Saturday morning. There's a place near the park we used to go to when you were young. The one with the pancakes? They still have them." She smiled, genuine and unforced. "Saturday morning, I'll be there." After she left, I opened the envelope. Inside was a money order for $500 and a note card. On it, in Rebecca's handwriting, "Integrity is doing the right thing, even when it's hard. You taught me that, even though I had to lose everything to learn it. Thank you, Dad." I sat at my desk for a long time, looking at that card. Carl knocked and entered, seeing my expression. "Everything okay?" "Rebecca was just here. How is she?" She's becoming someone I can be proud of again." "That's good, James. That's really good." You know what the strange thing is? If I'd given her that $45,000 2 years ago, if I'd covered for her, protected her from consequences, she'd probably be sitting in a much worse situation right now, deeper in debt, deeper in trouble, without having learned anything. Carl nodded. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is the right thing, especially when it's family. Especially then. Saturday morning, I arrived at the pancake house 15 minutes early. I ordered coffee and waited, watching the door, half expecting Rebecca not to show. But at exactly 10 o'clock, she walked in. She saw me, waved, and made her way to the booth. We talked for 2 hours about her time in prison, about the counseling she was receiving, about the women she was helping through the financial literacy program. She told me about her goals, her plans to eventually get her accounting certification back, her hope to maybe someday work in financial crime prevention. I want to use what I did, the mistakes I made, to help other people avoid the same path, she said. Maybe that's naive, but it feels like the only way to make something positive out of all this destruction. That's not naive. That's redemption. As we were leaving, Rebecca hesitated. Dad, I know this is asking a lot, but would it be okay if we did this again? Maybe once a month? How about every other week? Her face lit up. Really? Really? But Rebecca, I need you to understand something. We're rebuilding trust from zero. It's going to take time. There will be moments when I doubt you, when old hurts resurface. I need you to be patient with that. I understand. I'll learn it back, however long it takes. We parted in the parking lot and I watched her drive away in an old sedan that had clearly seen better days. But she'd bought it herself, with money she'd earned honestly. That evening, I called Carl to give him an update. She's doing well, really well. Are you going to offer her a job at the company? No, not now, maybe not ever. That's not the kind of help she needs. She needs to build her own success, her own reputation, separate from me and Morrison Supply. You're a wise man, James Morrison. I'm a father who made a lot of mistakes but got one thing right. What's that? Loving my daughter enough to let her fail, and then being there when she was ready to try again. 6 months later, Rebecca called me with news. The non-profit she worked for was promoting her to program director. She'd also been asked to speak at a state conference about financial rehabilitation for formerly incarcerated individuals. They want me to tell my story, Dad. About what happened, about prison, about rebuilding. I'll have to talk about what I did to you, to the company. Is that okay? Tell the truth, Rebecca. All of it. That's how people learn. It's going to be embarrassing. People will know what I did. People already know. Now they'll also know what you're doing about it. That's the story worth telling. The conference was held in the Capitol building downtown. I sat in the back row, watching my daughter stand at the podium and tell several hundred people about her crimes, her imprisonment, and her journey toward making things right. She spoke about entitlement, about the dangerous belief that success should come easily. She spoke about the moment she'd realized that her father's refusal to help her wasn't cruelty, but love. She spoke about rebuilding from nothing and discovering that honest work, no matter how humble, had a dignity that stolen wealth never could. When she finished, the applause was thunderous. People stood, some were crying. Afterward, several conference attendees approached her with questions, with thanks, with their own stories of failure and redemption. I watched her engage with each person, patient and thoughtful, and genuinely interested in helping. This was the daughter I'd raised. She'd been hiding under layers of entitlement and poor choices, but she'd been there all along. Sometimes people need to lose everything to find out who they really are. As the crowd dispersed, Rebecca saw me standing near the exit. She walked over, and I could see the exhaustion in her face, but also the satisfaction of having done something meaningful. You came. I wouldn't have missed it. What did you think? I think you're becoming the person you were always meant to be. She hugged me then, the first real embrace we'd shared in 3 years. I couldn't have done it without you refusing to make it easy. You did this yourself, Rebecca. You made the choice to change, but you made the choice to let me fail. That took more courage than helping me would have. We walked out of the building together, father and daughter, 2 people who'd traveled through betrayal and consequence and were finding their way back to each other through honesty and accountability. 3 years after that, I attended another ceremony. Rebecca was graduating with her master's degree in social work, having completed her program while working full-time and maintaining her restitution payments. Karen was there, and Sandra from the company, and even Carl and Patricia. We all celebrated together as Rebecca walked across that stage, her face beaming with pride in an accomplishment that was entirely her own. That evening, at the family dinner Rebecca had organized, she raised her glass for a toast. I want to thank everyone here for believing in me, even when I didn't deserve it, but especially I want to thank my dad. She looked at me, her eyes clear and steady. You taught me that real love isn't about making things easy. It's about helping people become strong enough to face hard things. You let me fall completely because you knew I needed to learn how to stand on my own. She pulled out an envelope and handed it to me. This is the final restitution payment, $150,000 paid in full. It took 5 years, but every dollar was earned honestly. I opened the envelope and saw the cashier's check. Then I did something I'd planned weeks ago, but hadn't told anyone about. I tore it in half. Rebecca's face went white. Dad, what are you... You've already paid your debt, sweetheart. Not in money, but in the person you've become. Consider us even. She started crying, and so did Karen, and before I knew it, half the table was in tears. Later that night, as the celebration wound down, Rebecca and I stood on her apartment balcony, looking out at the city lights. I never thought we'd get here, she said quietly. There were so many times in prison when I was sure I'd destroyed our relationship permanently. We almost didn't make it. If you hadn't chosen to change, if you'd kept blaming others, making excuses, we wouldn't be here now. And if you'd enabled me, protected me from consequences, we wouldn't be here either. You gave me the greatest gift a parent can give. What's that? The opportunity to fail completely and discover I was strong enough to survive it. I put my arm around her shoulders and we stood there in comfortable silence, watching the city below. Somewhere down there, other families were struggling with the same questions. How do you love someone without enabling them? How do you help without hindering? How do you know when to step in and when to step back? There are no easy answers. But I learned that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for someone you love is absolutely nothing. Let them face their consequences. Let them struggle. Let them discover their own strength, because in the end, the people we enable never thank us. But the people we hold accountable, if they choose to change, they become the people they were. Always meant to be. Rebecca is now the director of a statewide financial rehabilitation program. She speaks regularly at prisons and community centers. She's helped hundreds of people avoid the mistakes she made and find paths to honest, meaningful lives. And every other Sunday, she comes to my house for dinner. We talk about her work, about the company, about life. Sometimes we argue, sometimes we laugh, but we do it as equals, as 2 adults who've been through fire and came out stronger. That's not the ending I expected when my daughter walked into my office asking for $45,000. But it's the ending we both earned through hard choices and honest living, and I wouldn't change a single moment of it. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What would you have done in this situation? How do you balance love and accountability? Let me know. Thank you for watching.